Hi, this is Gianluca, class of 2023, and I'm going to walk you through the overview of a Chromebook. We're going to look at its main components, their functions, and what they look like, and also what they look like on all the devices. This is the Dell 3100 2-in-1 that we will open up and discuss the main points. You need to know the main components so when a student has a problem, you have an idea of what part could be causing this problem. Then you need to know the right repair techniques to solve this problem. One of the simplest techniques is to just unplug and replug it in, which is referred to as a reseat, and it's pretty easy and it fixes most of the problem. The first component we're going to be talking about is the keyboard. The keyboard is the entire area with the keys that allows you to write and use many other functions and controls. Some issues with the keyboard is a specific key will not work when pressed, or all the keys do not work when pressed, which indicates that it's a bad keyboard. The next component is the chassis or the palm rest. It's the entire area that houses the main components, including the keyboard, the trackpad, and all the internals of the device. Some common issues is being dropped and there being cracks along the palm rest or chassis. On the bottom of the device is the backplate. It's attached by easily visible screws that you have to just unscrew, and then it allows you to pop off the backplate to get inside the device. Once all the screws are unscrewed, you use a spludger, which is this device, to go under and twist, and you go run it all across, and you will be able to pull it off, and then your Chromebook is open. First, whenever you open up a Chromebook, you always want to remove the battery source. So you just unplug, it'll always be connecting straight to the battery. Right, so the first main component we're going to be looking at is the battery. The battery is always called the battery. It could sometimes be called the bat. But it's always on the bottom. It always has one connector straight into here, into the big board. It allows the Chromebook to be turned on and used without actually being plugged in all the time. And sometimes some problems with them is sometimes when they move, the little connector shifts and you just need to unplug it and plug it back in, or sometimes the battery will die, it's old, and you need to replace it. To access the trackpad, you need to remove the 3 screws on the battery, and underneath reveals the trackpad, also be called the mouse pad or just the mouse. It's just this little square connected by the 4 screws. It allows the trackpad to be used as a mouse with your finger. It's just connected by this little ribbon cable straight to the motherboard. And some issues are phantom clicks, where it just clicks on its own, when it just moves on its own, when it scrolls through your tabs, or it just does not work and you're unable to use your mouse. The next component is the speakers. It's connected on the bottom right of the motherboard, and it connects into the one speaker that connects to the other one, and it provides the sound for the Chromebook. Our next component is the motherboard, also called the main board, the MOBO, or just the MB. It's the most important piece of the Chromebook. It connects to everything because it is the brain. It processes everything. It controls everything, and it's the most expensive part. So you always want to be careful. But without this, the Chromebook would be useless. And some problems that could happen with it is the power button, which is right here. Sometimes when dropped, it could bend the button or push too hard, or anything could happen. It might break off the little connector that allows it to be used. Another problem is when it's plugged in, it won't have a light. You know that might be the motherboard, where you open the Chromebook and nothing happens, won't turn on. That could either be the main board or the battery. This is the daughter board, also called the DB. It's a small vertical board on the left because it's taller than it is long, and it's an extension of the motherboard that allows it to be charged as I/O, which is an input-output, or which is just a USB for this, and also allows you to change the volume on the side. It connects to these 2 ribbon cables and 1 power cable, all 3 straight into the motherboard. And one issue is either the volume won't work, or that when you plug it in, it won't charge on just this side, and it will charge on that side. That's how you know it's a bad daughter board. All right, our next component is the Wi-Fi card. It's up in the top left of the motherboard. It's also just called the Wi-Fi. Under the little I/O shield reveals both the connectors, the black and white, indicated by two small arrows for each color. And some issues that happen with the Wi-Fi card is just no Wi-Fi. All right, the next component is the hinges. It supports the Chromebook and allows it to be able to stand up and go into tablet mode smoothly. It allows the connectors to be funneled to the screen so they're protected and they don't bend. They're screwed in place with 3 screws on both sides, and some issues are it being dropped and then breaking the standoff, which is what the screw actually screws into. So it wouldn't be able to attach the screw and it would just spin in place and not work. Our last component is the LCD assembly, also just called the LCD or just the screen. It's the whole top, including the back part of it. It controls the screen of the device and also has the antennas, the Wi-Fi, and the camera and the microphone and the G sensor. It connects all through the hinges that we just looked at. They go through the hinges so they're safe, so they don't bend. And some common issues are when you can see a light coming off of the side through the indicator that the Chromebook is on, but the screen stays dark. That usually means that there's something wrong with the screen. All right, now we're going to be looking at the differences between the devices. So we're going to stay with the Dell 3100 2-in-1, and we're going to be comparing it to the Acer Spin. So the main difference between the two is the Wi-Fi card. On the Dell, we saw that the Wi-Fi card was soldered in place with the 2 connectors. On the Acer and Lenovo, we have a card in the top corner that is removable with a screw that is used to replace the Wi-Fi card. While on the Dell, you cannot replace it. And there's a ton of other small differences between the color, the little foil, the I/O shields, which are just blocks that you have to unscrew. But they're all the exact same function on either device, and you have to know to be able to recognize differences and know that they're still the same components. Right, this is the Lenovo, and this is compared to the Dell. So the Lenovo looks a lot different, but it's all the same basic component. So it has the battery, even though it's a lot bigger. It's still connected to the one port, and the daughter board still has the 2 connectors straight into the motherboard, except this one does not have a power connector that goes to the motherboard like the other 2. This one also has a card that is able to be taken out like the Acer, and the motherboard's a different shape, but they're all the same basic components and they all do the same things. One significant difference between the Dell 3100 and the other devices is that the Dell has a replaceable keyboard, so you can replace the keyboard without having to replace the chassis. On the other devices, the keyboard is completely attached to the chassis, so making it so you have to replace the chassis to also be able to replace the keyboard. In TSI, recognizing the main components and their function, no matter what device they are in, is necessary to your role in both troubleshooting and repair for student devices.